Motivation, emotion, and stress. Motivation. Motivation is the purpose or driving force behind our actions. Extrinsic motivation is based on external circumstances. Intrinsic motivation is based on internal drive or perception. Motivation theories. Instinct theory. Innate, fixed patterns of behavior in response to stimuli. Arousal theory. The state of being awake and reactive to stimuli. Aim for the optimal level of arousal for a given task. Yerkes-Dodson law. Drive reduction theory. Individuals act to relieve internal stress or tension. Maslow's hierarchy of needs prioritizes needs into 5 categories. Physiological needs, the highest priority, safety and security, love and belonging, self-esteem, and self-actualization, lowest priority. Emotion, 7 universal emotions: happiness, sadness, contempt, surprise, fear, disgust, anger. Theories of emotion. Theory, James Lang. First response, nervous system arousal. Second response, conscious emotion. Theory, Cannon Bard. First response, nervous system arousal and conscious emotion. Second response, action. Theory, Schachter Singer. First response, nervous system arousal and cognitive appraisal. Second response, conscious emotion. Stress. Stress is the physiological and cognitive response to challenges or life changes. Primary appraisal, classifying a potential stressor as irrelevant, benign positive, or stressful. Secondary appraisal, directed at evaluating whether the organism can cope with the stress based on harm, threat, and challenge. Stressor, anything that leads to a stress response, can include environmental, social, psychological, chemical, and biological stressors. The 3 stages of the general adaptation syndrome are alarm, resistance, and exhaustion. Identity and personality. Self-concept and identity. Self-concept, the sum of the ways in which we describe ourselves, in the present, who we used to be and who we might be in the future. Identities, individual components of our self-concept related to the groups to which we belong. Self-esteem, our evaluation of ourselves. Self-efficacy, the degree to which we see ourselves as being capable of a given skill in a given situation. Locus of control, a self-evaluation that refers to the way we characterize the influences in our lives, either internal, success or failure is a result of our own actions, or external, success or failure is a result of outside factors. Psychological disorders. Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM, the guide by which most psychological disorders are characterized, described, and diagnosed. Schizophrenia and psychotic disorders. Schizophrenia, psychotic disorder characterized by distortions of reality and disturbances in content and form of thought, perception, and behavior. Positive symptoms include hallucinations, delusions, and disorganized thought and behavior. Negative symptoms include disturbance of affect and avolition. Depressive disorders. Major depressive disorder contains at least one major depressive episode. Persistent depressive disorder, a depressed mood for at least 2 years. Seasonal affective disorder, the colloquial name for major depressive disorder with seasonal onset, with depression occurring during winter months. Bipolar and related disorders. Bipolar I disorder contains at least one manic episode. Bipolar II disorder contains at least one hypomanic episode and at least one major depressive episode. Cyclothymic disorder contains hypomanic episodes with dysthymia. Anxiety disorders. Generalized anxiety disorder. Constant, disproportionate, and persistent worry. Specific phobias. Irrational fears of specific objects. Social anxiety disorder. Anxiety due to social or performance situations. Agoraphobia. Fear of places or situations where it is hard for an individual to escape. Panic disorder. Recurrent attacks of intense, overwhelming fear and sympathetic nervous system activity with no clear stimulus. It may lead to agoraphobia. Obsessive compulsive disorder. Obsessions and compulsions. Body dysmorphic disorder. Unrealistic negative evaluation of one's appearance or a specific body part. Dissociative disorders. Dissociative amnesia. Inability to recall past experience. May involve dissociative fugue, a sudden change in location that can involve the assumption of a new identity. Dissociative identity disorder. 2 or more personalities that take control of behavior. Depersonalization, derealization disorder. Feelings of detachment from the mind or body or from the environment. Formation of identity. Freud's stages of psychosexual development. Based on tensions caused by the libido, with failure at any given stage leading to fixation. Erikson's stage of psychosocial development. Stem from conflicts that are the result of decisions we are forced to make about ourselves and the environment around us at each phase of our lives. Stages are trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus shame and doubt, initiative versus guilt, industry versus inferiority, identity versus role confusion, intimacy versus isolation, generativity versus stagnation, and integrity versus despair. Kohlberg's theory of moral reasoning development describes the approaches of individuals to resolving moral dilemmas. 6 stages are divided into 3 main phases: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. Vygotsky's theory of cultural and biosocial development describes development of language, culture, and skills. Personality. Psychoanalytic perspective. Personality results from unconscious urges and desires. Freud. Id, superego, ego. Jung. Collective unconscious. Archetypes. Humanistic perspective. Emphasizes internal feelings of healthy individuals as they strive toward happiness and self-realization. Maslow. Hierarchy of needs. Rogers. Unconditional positive regard. Type and trait theory. Personality can be described as a number of identifiable traits that carry characteristic behaviors. Type theories of personality. Ancient Greek humors. Sheldon's somatotypes. Division into types A and B. The Myers-Briggs Type Inventory. Eysenk's 3 major traits. Psychoticism, extroversion, neuroticism. Trait theorists' Big 5. Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Allport's 3 basic types of traits: cardinal, central, and secondary. Somatic symptom and related disorders. Somatic symptom disorder. At least one somatic symptom which may or may not be linked to an underlying medical condition that causes disproportionate concern. Illness and anxiety disorder. Preoccupation with having or coming down with a serious medical condition. Conversion disorder. Unexplained symptoms affecting motor or sensory function. Personality disorder. Patterns of inflexible, maladaptive behavior that cause distress or impaired functioning. Cluster A. Paranoid, schizotypal, schizoid. Cluster B. Antisocial, borderline, histrionic, narcissistic. Cluster C. Avoidant, dependent, obsessive compulsive. Social processes, attitudes, and behavior. Group psychology. Social facilitation. Tendency to perform at a different level, better or worse, when others are around. De-individuation. Loss of self-awareness in large groups can lead to drastic changes in behavior. Bystander effect. In a group, individuals are less likely to respond to a person in need. Peer pressure. Social influence placed on an individual by other individuals they consider equals. Group polarization. Tendency towards making decisions in a group that are more extreme than the thoughts of the individual group members. Groupthink. Tendency to make decisions based on ideas and solutions that arise within the group without considering outside ideas. Culture. Assimilation. One culture begins to melt into another. Multiculturalism. Encouragement of multiple cultures within a community to enhance diversity. Subculture. A group that distinguishes itself from the primary culture to which it belongs. Socialization. Socialization is the process of developing and spreading norms, customs, and beliefs. Norms. Boundaries of acceptable behavior within society. Stigma. Extreme disapproval or dislike of a person or group based on perceived differences. Deviance. Any violation of norms, rules, or expectations within a society. Conformity. Changing beliefs or behaviors in order to fit into group or society. Compliance. Individuals change behavior based on the request of others. Techniques for gaining compliance include foot in the door, door in the face, lowball, and that's not all. Obedience. Change in behavior based on a command from someone seen as an authority figure. Social interaction. Elements of social interaction. Status. A person in society used to classify individuals. Can be ascribed, achieved, or master. Role. Set of beliefs, values, and norms that define the expectations of a certain status. Group. Two or more individuals with similar characteristics who share a sense of unity. Network. Observable pattern of social relationships between individuals or groups. Organization. Group with a structure and culture designed to achieve specific goals. Exists outside of each individual's membership within the organization. Self-presentation and interacting with others. Display rules. Unspoken rules that govern the expression of emotion. Impression management. Maintenance of a public image through various strategies. Dramaturgical approach. Individuals create images of themselves in the way that actors perform a role in front of an audience. Social thinking. Social behavior. Interpersonal attraction, influenced by physical, social, and psychological factors. Aggression. Behavior with the intention to cause harm or increase social dominance. Attachment. An emotional bond to another person, usually refers to the bond between a child and a caregiver. Altruism. Helping behavior in which the person's intent is to benefit someone else at a personal cost. Social perception and behavior. Attribution theory. Focuses on the tendency for individuals to infer the causes of other people's behavior. Dispositional. Causes relate to the features of the person who is being considered. Situational. Causes relate to features of the surroundings or social context. Correspondent inference theory. Describes attributions made by observing the intentional behaviors performed by another person. Fundamental attribution error. Bias towards making dispositional attributions rather than situational attributions. Stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination. Stereotypes. Attitudes and impressions that are made based on limited and superficial information. Self-fulfilling prophecy. The phenomenon of a stereotype creating an expectation of a particular group, which creates conditions that lead to confirmation of this stereotype. Stereotype threat, a feeling of anxiety about confirming a negative stereotype. Prejudice, an irrationally based attitude prior to actual experience. Ethnocentrism, the practice of making judgments about other cultures based on the values and beliefs of one's own culture, in-group versus out-group. Cultural relativism, studying social groups and cultures on their own terms. Discrimination, when prejudicial attitudes cause differences in treatment of a group. Social structure and demographics. Functionalism, focuses on the function and relationship of each component of society. Conflict theory focuses on how power differentials are created and how they maintain order. Symbolic interactionism, the study of how individuals interact through a shared understanding of words, gestures, and other symbols. Social constructionism explores how individuals and groups make decisions to agree upon a given social reality. Culture. Material culture, physical items one associates with a given group. Symbolic culture, the ideas associated with a cultural group. Demographics, the statistical arm of sociology. Migration refers to the movement of people into and out of a geographical location. Demographic transition, a model used to represent drops in birth and death rates as a result of industrialization. Social stratification. Social stratification is based on socioeconomic status, class, power, social capital, social reproduction, and poverty. Epidemiology. Morbidity, the burden or degree of illness associated with a given disease. Mortality, deaths caused by a given disease.